All right. Go watch video 1. If you didn't watch video 1, you better watch video 1 because you want to understand what's going on. Because this is the Kaalia of the Vast cedh deck primer part 2. And we're just going to go through win conditions and important interactions. Not all of them, but the most important ones. Being our most common win conditions and their interactions. So, that being said, let's say via our fast mana, which say we can play turn 1, we play Blood Crypt, a Lotus, and these two. Now these will allow us to crack Kaalia turn 1, right? Okay. And where do we go from there? So there's our turn 1 Kaalia. This is absolutely the ideal situation. So turn 1 Kaalia. We must tutor. If we don't have in our hand, where are our demons? Demons, hello. We have them here somewhere. Demons, demons, demons. Who has the demons? There they are. Okay, so here's our demons, right? So these are going to be what we're going to want in hand to tutor up for, to have in hand with Kaalia. So best case scenario, if we haven't already tutored up for it with one of the many tutors, what we're going to do is we're going to attack with Kaalia. So, badink. All right, and we are going to bring out Razaketh. We're going to sacrifice Kaalia. Pay our life. We are going to seek out the Leonin Relic Warder. We're going to sacrifice it. Now, hopefully we have one of these two in our hand, and if we don't, we're going to seek that out with Leonin Relic Warder. We're going to target Leonin Relic Warder with this in the battlefield. So, when this enters, when Leonin Relic Warder enters the battlefield, you may exile target artifact or enchantment. When Leonin Relic Warder leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control. So then we're going to create that loop. And we can sacrifice indefinitely to Razaketh to tutor up anything we want. Or, say we do that, we can tutor up, say, where's one of our good things here? Where are you, Johnny? Man, I thought I was so organized. Tony. What are you, Tony, are you hiding stuff? All right. Anyways. All right, there's our demons. We know that. Okay. There we go. So one of these. So tutoring up either of these, or if they're on the battlefield, there's a low casting cost. This is the kind of loop we want to get going. Where these things are on there, we have the entry and the leaving of the... So whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life, and whenever another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. So instantaneous death triggers are going around. Ding, 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 ding. So we have a potential to use this card for that. We have a potential to use this card for that. We have other demons to do things. We have Gory in there. So let's say we begin to do this, right? Let's say somebody catches us. We seek this out with Razaketh. Leonin's in there, and someone exiles our graveyard. Leonin's gone, right? So, yeah, having a one-shot cedh deck is great, but what about when that what about when that goes away? It's good to have an extra man on board, as it were. So, that in your graveyard, you can tutor this up with one of our graveyard tutors, start a new graveyard again, get that on the battlefield, and do the same thing. Target, bounce, back and forth. So, like I say, there's little decks inside of this deck. So we have these two guys. and how they work with these two. See the synergy there? How these work with that entry and exit thing there? And not only does that do that, it gives us card draw through these other demons. Well, let's say Razakhet gets exiled. Let's say Razakhet's out of there. Because sometimes things don't work. In fact, let's cut Kaalia out of the equation as well. What else can we do? So, here's an interesting card. Necropotence. What can we do with that? Skip your draw phase. If you discard a card from your hand, remove that card from the game. For 0, you pay 1 life to set aside the top card of your library. At the beginning of your next discard phase, put that card into your hand. Effects that prevent or redirect damage cannot be used to counter this loss of life. So, we know Necropotence. So we can use this to tutor up a win condition, such as these two, which are my favorite win conditions. So, Dual Caster, just going over that with not too much mana on the field and ways to generate mana as well. Like Jeska's Will. We have Skirk Prospector via Koldatha Rebirth. These are ways to generate mana that is going to cover the cost of either one of these. So early game, tutoring up these, this sorcery here, we know how Dual Caster works. When Dual Caster enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So basically, you cast Twin Flame, and while it's still on the stack before it resolves, you cast Dual Caster, and these two create a loop, which choose any number of target creatures you control. For each of them, put a token that's a copy of that creature. So we're going to choose Dual Caster. When it enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery spell, and we're gonna copy the Twin Flame. So bink, bonk, we're gonna have a big army of hasty baddies there, right? So we want that big old army of hasties. So that's one way, and we win that way a lot. And just like that. So that's a very simple win condition. And using these mana generators. Now, not only is there these mana generators, but so too do we need to generate card draw, right? And this deck doesn't have super expensive, like the most expensive cards, like a Wheel of Fortune. So we have cards like Queen Kaalia Binkrug, a new card here that I'm so excited about. So this Human Noble. So for 1 and a Boros there, we can pay 4 on tap, discard all the cards in your hand, and draw that many cards. You may choose an artifact or creature card with mana value 1 you discarded this way. When you do, then do the same for artifact or creature cards with mana values 2 and 3. Return those cards to the battlefield. Activate. This is a sorcery. This is amazing. So this is wonderful. This is all the flavor of things I love about this format. Just being able to dump and pull, and Shattered Perception is going to be a similar poor man's Wheel of Fortune, as it were. Discard all the cards in your hand and draw that many cards. So this is going to fill our hand, and it's going to fill our graveyard too, so that when very important things happen, such as, let's see here, get our next setup here. But when these things happen, we need to have that mana. And like I was explaining in video 1, just 1 mana is huge for making all the difference. And just a couple mana to be able to generate those extra ones via Dockside here. Even having Dockside being a goblin that you can sacrifice to the Skirk Prospector to get that 1 mana to maybe just finish up that, cast this. Get that 1 last mana. So that kind of cutting right real close, that's what we need for this. So like with Dockside, are we going to generate infinite mana every time? We're not. Are we going to be able to draw through the whole deck and play the Children of Corliss to stop the damage that we've ad-naused ourselves? So ad-naused ourselves for 39, then sack Children of Corliss. We have a big hand Nah, that's not going to happen every time. But we like it. We like to use ad nauseum to get some things. And we certainly like to bounce dockside, right? So this is familiarity. Everybody knows what bad is. So there's other video about this combo particularly. But we're going to stick on just what we're doing here. So that being said, things leaving the battlefield do damage, right? But also do things entering the battlefield. So just like, say we blink this, right? Say blink dockside with, where's our fella there? There he is. So say this Adrian Gorian ward in our graveyard. Dockside is out. Let's say for poops and doodles, let's say we've got Kaalia out. So we have Kaalia out, we have Bogarden Hellkite in hand, we have Dockside. So we tap Kaalia, right? And Bogarden in hand comes out tapped and attacking. In the meantime, we animate dead Adriel Gorian's ward. So when Abdel Adrian Gorian's ward enters the battlefield, exile any number of other non-land permanents you control until Abdel Adrian leaves the battlefield. Create a 1/1 white soldier creature token for each permanent exiled this way. So what are we going to exile? Dockside. And we're going to exile Bogarden Hellkite. And guess what's going to happen? Animate Dead's going to trigger, and this is going to trigger. And because it has that second ability to be able to choose targets to bounce back and forth, Dockside will create treasure, which is going to be useless to us. But say Bogarden wasn't there. We're going to create a ton of treasure until somebody either stops the loop by destroying this, or I stop it by targeting something else with my Animate Dead or Necromancy. So we can stop it, and we create tons of treasure tokens. So Gorian ward here, this card is just, can't say enough about it. And to a lesser degree of being specialized, like more of like a blunt tool, do you have the Bogarden Hellkite and World Gorger. So there's a way we bouncing Dockside back and forth and getting all these treasure tokens where it's so many. That can happen. But again, you see where our win cons are going? So we're generating infinite mana and what to do with it, how to go through our decks. There's other ways. So let's get to the Gibbering Fiend. When Gibbering Fiend enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So let's say Bogarden Hellkite. So here's what we do. We obviously will have World Gorger in our graveyard, okay? So with World Gorger in the graveyard, Kaalia taps an attack. So what do? We play Bogarden Hellkite. Tapped and attacking. Somebody instant speeds. Somebody knows what's coming. They know that I'm about to loop this. So they target Bogarden, okay? Guess what? Gibbering Fiend enters the battlefield. It deals 1 damage to each opponent. So here's another way. This is a backup plan. So this will have this effect where it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So we'll reanimate World Gorger, create the loop. We don't even need to worry about our mana being able to be used. What we know is even if this is removed, if something happens to this, they're not there, couldn't cast this, Kaalia wasn't out, we needed to cast something cheap to enter the battlefield and do the damage. Gibbering Fiend is going to do that by bouncing back and forth. Everything's exiled, goes away, comes back, goes away, comes back. And unless somebody stops this, which there is a way to, like, that's the danger. That's why, in a way, Gorian's ward is better than World Gorger, because you don't exile land as well. But then in a way, World Gorger is better because it does exile land, because then it brings that land back to be used infinitely. So there is that, but you can have your land gone forever as well if something happens. So it is a risk reward. So, Gibbering Fiend. Goblin Chain Whirler is a good one too, if you like the goblin vibe, but I think the Fiend here is cool. I like the artwork. And in addition, like I said, the entering the battlefield triggers, right? Another one there. Um, and to a lesser degree, like people say, well, you got overlap there. Yeah, I do. And the reason I have it is for these things to work and to be optimized, this overlap of these combos, yeah, they're the same. These demons, some of them are big demon, some of them are, what would you say, like Razaketh Light, like Rune Scarred, like, yeah, sure, you could really optimize this to be like a one trick pony, but things are going to happen. And let's say, like, opening hand when you're playing to cast Kaalia turn one if possible, and then use her turn two, having creatures in hand that you don't need to tutor for. So if I don't need to tutor for one of these win conditions and I already have it in my hand, that's huge for one, because I can save mana where I wouldn't have to cast it, wouldn't have to tutor for that. So having created this almost is like a big standard deck, in the sense, like, in a standard deck, like, you could run like a play set of Corpse Knight, but I can't do that. So what do? We have a play set, kind of, right? Kind of like a play set with these ETB things. So these guys kind of do the same thing. They enter the battlefield, they do the, things leave. So we got a play set of things that do that. We have a play set of things, of creatures that seek things out for us. So where it's like a singleton format, these cards work together. And to a lesser degree, you'll see that even with our removal and stuff, we have like very repetitious. So this deck is designed to be like repetitious and hit very similar things. Like, I'm going to win Bogard and Hellkite. I'm going to, flicker in Abdul, and we're going to exile, and we're going to bring back an exile, and then the ETB triggers are going to happen. That's how we're going to win with this, by flicking in these things. And really what you've just seen, that is the heart of how this wins, is these ETB damage. That's how I win with this. Some people run things like, what is it? I used to run it myself. It's like a split card where you can deal like damage to each opponent in like X by generating infinite mana. But you know what? Like, generating infinite mana is all well and good. That's what I do in my Selvala deck, to generate infinite mana, generate different, infinite X cost things. So with this, I don't do that. And as you see there, by using bad, we can generate a bit of mana. We can shoot through our deck. Using these other things, we didn't even quite go over them, because, like, just like Lurus, that's another way. Like, people say, like, well, you do that one time, you can cast it. Yeah, one time. If I can cast this out of my graveyard one time, that's big, because this will create a lot of treasure. And so too, like, casting permanents, right? During each of your turns, you may cast one permanent spell with converted mana cost 2 or less. I can cast Lotus Petal. We can cast Jeweled Lotus, as long as our graveyard is intact. And like Peer into the Abyss, target player draws cards equal to half the number of cards in their library and loses half their life. Round up each time. So, right here, whenever you lose life, draw that many cards. Villas, this paying life, So like, if Villas, you cheat Villas out, even paying Villas's cost by using some of our rituals and reanimating Villas, recurring Villas, having him on the battlefield, whenever you lose life, draw that many cards. So, like, these two together, I mean, it's so powerful. Let's see here. Oh, those are lands. But, yeah, and then the Children of Corliss, like, using this, paying life, we can pay our life down, sacrifice Children of Corliss, and there's no stipulation on this where that life can't be, where you have to pay it, and it can't be lost. So just like there, same thing. Do this to yourself. You're going to fill your hand. You're going to find those combo pieces. And people say, well, look at all these reoccurring things. Like, people say, like, in Commander, like, let a deck, like, speak who you are. And I get flack because they're like, oh, how does this speak? This really does. Like, it has a lot of cats in it, and I love that. In the card design, like, full art cards. I got my mother on the card here. These funny, different, I like these foils. The card is me. Like, the deck does speak to me. And I really like these combos, how they machine gun out of there. And I like the kind of slot machine aspect of chewing through your deck to hit pieces, and what can you have in your opening hand, you know, that you already need. Like, that's fun too, like shuffling and drawing. So what can we get in our opening hand to get us to have these pieces on the board? Just like I was gonna make an Elias Ilcor deck, but I'm like, you know what? I may make one still, but I decided not to because this deck is so similar to what I wanted to do with the Elias deck. But it's more fun because you can add more combos to the mix, like more of the same. Like, you're either gonna win by Rite of Flame and to get that mana and do your dual caster. You know, you got Final Fortune. If you set up the combo, take another turn just to make sure you're gonna do it. And there's ways to optimize this out. Sure, some more 0 mana cost, but this wins a lot and it wins fun. But it is hated, it seems like. And you know, it's not even like stacksy that much. But the deck is so fun. But it's real simple. Like, once you learn what to look for and learn those reoccurring cards to get, like, either I'm going to win by entering the battlefield damage or leaving the battlefield by death damage, that's how you're going to win with this. So, if you want to make one like it, Johnny, I suggest it. And get out there and do it, because it is very fun. Actually, I gotta shuffle these up after my video. I don't need to be getting all lumps of land and stuff. Then the deck will be crummy for a few weeks until it shuffles up good. We can't have that. But anyways, just food for thought, okay? So I hope that wasn't too confusing. I mean, I think it's real simple. All of these things are just, you know, I could have went over everything, necropotence, how we're going to use it. Everything is just pushing us to get those pieces, to stop people from stopping us from getting our pieces, and using their pieces to stop things that we might be doing that are irrelevant to us. Like, Kaalia is not that important. That's why it's the wallflower, because she's not that important. Necropotence, pretty important. Entomb, Reanimate, these two are important. These tutors, hugely important. We just want to get our pieces. We just want to get what we need and get it onto the board, and then do that damage. Do that damage. That's what we want. We want Reanimate spells, get Gibbering Fiend entering the battlefield and leaving via some blink effect. And yeah, I mean, I want to say, like, there's 24, 25 creatures. There's 27 lands in here, despite me counting 26 on the last video. I must have just counted too fast and skipped over one, but there's 27 lands, and I want to say like 24 creatures. And at least like a quarter of those creatures are combo centric, where they do things for the combo. So they're going to be doing the ETB damage, they're going to be doing the death trigger damage, or it's going to be the dual caster mage. And that is it. I mean, it's very simple. It's a facade, really, because that's how I win, because people tend to leave you alone. It's Kaalia comes out, then the trouble begins. Then they think, oh, here comes angels, tons of demons, these big dragons. But it isn't that. And that is the secret of this. It's not that. So this wins by what people perceive it to be. And that is the secret. So is it a one-trick pony? It used to be where, like, when I'd play it, I'd bring either my casual Kaalia, which was all angels, demons, and dragons, and I consequently sold that one because I play this one all the time. So, that being said, when I would bring this to places, people got, like, used to what I was doing. And they'd be like, oh, there's that. We can get that piece out of there. So I figured I'm going to double up my win pieces. And not just am I going to double them up, but I'm going to add a couple that are different win conditions. That aren't just, death triggers, but ETB, enter the battlefield, does damage. Leave the battlefield, does damage. And we want that universal damage to go right around. And it does. It surely does. So get out there, do yourself a favor, and get some of these beautiful magenta sleeves. And join me next time. Yeehaw, man.